All right, I think I'm live, and as we see people continuing to join us, 77. So people are still interested. What's going on? Hi, everybody. Dan Harrison here with you this afternoon. We appreciate you setting aside the time and making time to connect with us and to hear the latest as we know it to be. I've got Dan Lannon, who is uh, standing by and is going to be sharing um, some of the specifics about how he and Sharon and so many others of our dedicated workforce have really begun to ramp up our activity as an organization in preparing for the the cases now that we've been um, the people that have tested positive within our agency. You know, depending on what statistic you look at, the apex or the height of this COVID-19 epidemic is going to be hitting us in a couple of weeks or a number of weeks, and so I think that the few that we've seen right now may just be the beginning as we begin to see more people that are testing positive and as more test kits become available. Dan can give more specifics, but I'm very happy to say that the people that are ill or tested positive, we now have three that are currently being quarantined and cared for over at 147 New Boston Street. We're now referring to this location as the New Boston Care Center, or as Ted said, NBCC. Or um, uh, we that building is now off limits, and so if you're somebody that might go into the building for other reasons, we're not to be in there. I kind of stumbled in there. I guess we'll call it my CEO prerogative. Yesterday, I just wanted to see for myself how people were doing, see with my own eyes how our staff were doing there. And so what I started to say was that the three guys that are over there now are perfectly fine. They were hanging out, and although they did test positive, they certainly were not suffering any symptoms that we're aware of. So that's the good news. Of course, um, they still need to be quarantined. So before I mention anything more, I just we are. What we're doing here together and what we're trying to do here as the leadership team that just is trying to serve this organization widely is to make the very best decisions that we can based on information that's becoming available to us. This is, as we all know, unlike anything that any of us have experienced before. uh, Everyone from our elected officials, people in government, people in science and in the medical industry, we're all of us have been thrown into this terrible pandemic um, that we're figuring out. There's many of us know Jenny Sassnet, who has done some great work for us and consulted with us around our No Walls programs, but she would use the metaphor of we're building a ship while on the ocean. And so many times it feels that way to me as we're trying to coordinate our response. We're trying to find the very best way to manage people's health and safety, how to protect people that our staff, which is our greatest asset and so important to us, and will be so essential as we move through this and find our way to the other side. Uh, so we're figuring things out as we go along, and when you're doing a video update like I've been doing, or Dan Lannon has been doing a lot of these, it's you have to be thinking on your feet, and sometimes you say things that you don't mean, or maybe you've gotten the name or a phrase incorrect. So we're just asking for your again, your patience and your understanding that I would much rather um, maybe make a mistake on a detail from time to time, than to curtail all of the communication that we've been providing. Sometimes when you have made a commitment to be as transparent as we hope to be, and you made the commitment to communicate as frequently and as directly and as honestly as possible, sometimes with that the casualties are sometimes occasional mistake, or I just do something stupid and look dumb, I guess, which is also very likely. And I'm sure it's happened many times. But we do thank you for your patience and understanding as we try to coordinate and figure all of this out. So this is us, and this is what you're getting, a very kind of unscripted and unedited kind of look into what we got going on in our world here as we try to manage things. But back to the New Boston Care Center. This are, you know, our offices, our home offices. Most of you are familiar, been in there at some time or another. I just want to quickly explain. When we made the decision to use this space, and it's required quite a bit of finagling to make sure that we have the safety plan, the fire department's aware, that everybody's aware. Um, uh, People may wonder what kind of a place it would be for anybody to convalesce. So I was there yesterday, and I did have the protective gear on. In fact, we did a little video, but I just wanted to see how things have been set up. And for those of you who don't know, we have a number of new office cubicles that had just pretty much just been finished being built, and these are new. They hadn't been occupied yet by furniture, most of them, carpeted floors, and they're actually kind of cozy and comfortable. They're certainly big enough for a very small room. Of course, people don't have a closet or that sort of thing, but they have air mattresses and nice linens on it, and floor very clean, and they had a whole setup where everybody had their own laundry basket, and they'd get out of the shower and right away their laundry would go into one basket that would then be washed. So I was very impressed to see the efforts that staff and the numerous details that have been taken into consideration when setting this up, because I want people to be comfortable. And we hear about, you know, these awful stories about how people have been so ill and ended up at the hospital. And certainly this does seem to impact some people at a much greater level of intensity than others. But we want to know that there is, you know, a kind and compassionate approach to how we're dealing with our folks that may become ill with this. And I felt good after being there yesterday. Michael Edwards and Beth Sheehan were the two staff that were there, and just a huge shout out to them, and also Ken Sitabaldi and Faith Nimley, who have committed to providing the care for this group of people that have had confirmed cases. As more people become confirmed, there is access for multiple numbers of people to be there, and we will adjust the staffing accordingly. But these staff that are there were the first to step up, and they're doing 12-hour shifts. They got rooms at a local hotel, and we've provided for them to get takeout and have food delivered according to what the schedules are and what their personal interests are. So we're doing everything we can to take care of the needs of the people that are there. And you know, again, a special thanks to the entire team of people that have been really converted in very short order. What had been a you know, obviously a, you know, office and community-based day program and day hab located there, and flip that to become a unit that we can ensure the very best care, and that we know that we've got people kind of isolated in one central location. So nobody has any business there anymore, and nobody should be going into that space except for the people that are these highly trained staff. And if you you know, happen to see one of them in the future, you won't for at least the next week, and then probably 2 weeks after, while they self-quarantine at home. But when you see them, I hope you'll give them an extra special pat on the back for these true NuPath heroes that have shown the willingness to step up and help us at this time. And for those of you who have given this some thought and have decided that you would like this opportunity, I know Dan's going to talk about when he provides his update, and he will explain the best way to notify somebody that you are interested and able to come forward and to help NuPath in this important way, and not just NuPath, but our entire community and our the Commonwealth and our in our world, our nation and our world, because this is certainly something that is going to be around for a few weeks, and we have to be thinking about how we're going to sustain this, over a matter of weeks. Again, so different from anything we've experienced, even in the worst of times when we've had, the organization closed for a couple of days because of a severe weather event, or a blizzard, or a hurricane, or some other terrible thing that's come across our region. It's usually out of here, and when it's done, and we can begin to clean up and repair and fix things. And now we just have to hunker down and find a way to get through this period of time where people are being asked to isolate, so we are looking at a number of things. The big conversation that was occupying my mind toward the end of last week on Thursday was about I was feeling about as low as I could be. Just wondering how we were going to manage through the financial side of things. So even as we care for people, their health and safety, and obviously that's our primary concern. But at a time when so many people and are experiencing being laid off and furloughed from their jobs, and people are worried about their economic well-being and their livelihood. It just was something that was weighing very heavily upon me as to how we were going to try to keep employment and keep that we'd be able to keep the lights on, during this crisis, and to get to the other side. And by Friday afternoon, when we had our virtual Unity forum, and it was kind of our chance to think a little about lighter things, and we interviewed some staff virtually from their homes. But I was feeling a little bit more upbeat because we had begun to unpack some of the things that were contained in the this third federal stimulus package that has been in the news so much. What is now being referred to as the CARES Act, and this is, I've got to just glance down my notes, but the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act. And this, if you've not seen it, just type that in a Google search, because there's some really great documentation out there about what it holds specifically. But even with good summaries, sometimes the devil is in the details. So we're looking into what some of these things mean for NuPath and for the organization. But what I was saying about that was that as I was able to get with Greg and Bill and some others, and begin to look at what some of the aid would somehow benefit small businesses, and did we, as an organization of 497 people, employees, would we qualify for this? And so by the time we went to the broadcast, or to the virtual forum on Friday afternoon, I was feeling much more encouraged. And then later that afternoon, I think it was about 6:30 or 7, we received word from ADDP and that the state, Massachusetts, had created a way forward for day programs, organizations that ran day programs that were losing billing through the lack of attendance. There would be a way for them to begin to recoup some of this. So it's very good news, and now I'm feeling much better and much more confident that if we all hunker down and do our share and do what we need to do, that we'll be able to get through this just fine without having to lay anybody off. And one of the things that was so important to me, guys, was that and even looking at transportation and various units, and maybe we can lay these people off but keep these people on. Is I just we talk about unity all the time, our unity light, our unity forum, and it's something just didn't feel right to. I mean, we're all in this together, and my responsibility as your CEO is to explore, like I said last week, anything at all, any way that we'll be able to stay united, and that we're going to be able to honor our brothers and sisters that are working in all different parts of this organization, and belonging. There's another one, that we belong to NuPath, and to an organization that cares about people and cares about where people are, and that's just, a lot of you don't really know me that well, and maybe just see my videos, but it's so important to me that people feel that this is a place of belonging, and that this is a place where people care for more than just what our outputs are, and just about getting the maximum level of productivity from people. We're dealing with human lives, and behind each of those lives is a whole set of complexities and experiences that can make the balance of life sometimes difficult. I certainly know. I know how family and health issues can affect somebody, and so all of that aside, it's looking hopeful that many of the items contained within this CARES Act are things that will be able to benefit NuPath. And believing, I intend to take fully access our each and every one of them that can assist us in any way. And again, we said this last Friday, and I said it early last week. If you have a problem, if you have a question, if you've got a need that you think may be unique to what you're going through, I urge you to contact Human Resources. Karen Franklin, who heads up that department for us, is amazing, and I know that she cares very much about people. She understands where I'm coming from, and how sort of my mindset, my approach to things are. So it certainly never hurts to ask, and as she helps us all kind of understand some of these various features, and at the risk of providing false information or misinformation, I just want to say, regarding unemployment, some other things that's contained within that bill, we're continuing to kind of unpack those things and look at how they are going to affect all of our staff. And there's some things that you might hear on the news, and it talks about added benefits for people. You have to be careful. We're trying to determine that we qualify for all of them, and in some cases, some things apply to healthcare workers or other essential staff, and others do not. We just really need to understand what this is going to mean, so that we're able to have accurate information to provide to people. And again, hope that you'll be understanding with that, and patient as we try to understand the implications. I'm meeting with I think virtually with Bill Yates tomorrow, again to further explore some of the the financial considerations, but again, we're hopeful that we're going to keep everybody whole throughout this, which is my main goal, and that we're going to be able to respond to the financial challenges that this is presenting in a way that's going to benefit us all. So one thing I will mention, that we're going to be looking for ways for some of our employment staff and our day program staff to have more outreach for families. I know there's a whole number of you out there whose lives are upended. I know there's people that normally come to our programs or participate in our No Walls programs or in our day habs, and you may have your son or daughter at home, and that's, I'm sure, putting great pressure on your family unit. And I want to find ways that we could be helpful. So the way I had it sort of set up in my mind is the first week, the last couple of weeks really just have been about just kind of getting our sea legs and trying to understand just the enormity of what we're encountering here, and then waiting for some of this financial relief to become known to us. So those are kind of like the level one of the Maslow's hierarchy of need, if you will. Health, safety, preservation of life. Just kind of understanding what we're going to do once people start to test positive, and where are we going to help them get better, and all of those things. And now that some of those things are starting to get locked in a little bit, we're starting to get a little bit serious. We can turn our thinking and our sights towards some of the more advanced, sort of challenges that are facing. How do we sustain this? What are the kinds of things that we've got as resources? How can we repurpose some of our staff to be engaged in a virtual community, to bring some relief, to find things that are honestly useful to families and to our people that have been displaced from their day programs that are home, and wanting to ensure that we're making those things available to people, and that people are feeling that they're connected to something bigger, which is so important during this time. And for our residential families that remain separated from your loved ones, I get it. I understand. This is not something any of us would have chosen, and I'm sure there are things happening that are maybe less than what we'd want them to be. Or again, we're working towards creating a sustainable model of what people can do, how we can be helpful, what we can commit to, based on the fact that our first and primary goal is making sure that we have the adequate staffing, that people are being cared for in a home setting where they're not going to be exposed to any viruses that are coming in and out, in unnecessary fashion. So be patient again, and know that and this won't last forever. It probably feels like it, but it is something that we must nevertheless endure, and it's important that we find ways that we can sustain it. I was actually over at the office yesterday, and we have the row of trees when you come in. They're these Cleveland pear trees that we planted about 6 or 7 years ago to get some shade on that side. And I love them this time of year because they go into full bloom 1 week of the year. These trees that started out really small, but they've gotten quite a bit bigger. And it's one of my favorite weeks of the year. And it usually falls right around our walk, which was supposed to be mid-April. But the buds are just starting to crack a little bit, still a couple of weeks away, but maybe I'll drive by there and take pictures to share with people. The promise is that this will not last forever, and that we will find ourselves beyond smarter, better, more adept at a virtual, business model, and I think becoming much more efficient. And it's a time of testing that is revealing an organization that this is not something that's going to take us down. We are stronger and smarter and better than this virus, and we will get through this. There's not a doubt in my mind. Last thing I'm going to mention, and then I'm going to flip it over to Dan Lannon, unless there's questions at the end. The petition that went out last week, guys, it has been like one of the bright spots of my day is when I look at that petition to see that when we launched that I think it was last Thursday evening or afternoon evening, um, it was asked to be, what would be your goal for signatures on that? And we were looking again at a way to express and to communicate with the broader community how important our services were, that we would not want to ever have to lay anybody off. And we batted around a couple of ideas, but I said, I think we can hit 1,000. We went back and forth. 500, that'd be safe, but 1,000 we could probably do. We are now at 6,154 people have signed that petition electronically and passed it on. And because now some of these services have been protected and that the funding is been made available in one form or another, I just see this more as this wide and rich affirmation of what we're about, and validation for the hard work that all of you are doing every single day. And so when I look at that petition, I see 6,154 people saying thank you. Thank you for working with the vulnerable population that often cannot speak for itself, and that during this time of confusion and crisis and everything being upside down and topsy-turvy in this world, imagine how much more so people with intellectual developmental disabilities and physical disabilities may be facing in their lives, and why it is all of our moral imperative that we speak for them, and that we do whatever we can to ensure that their lives and the quality of their lives and their families' lives are being protected and championed. So 6,154 thank yous to all of our fabulous staff and people that are working on the front lines, and people that are all across this organization are coming together to support what we're doing each and every day. You guys are awesome, and we got this. So I'm going to see if Greg can help us with bringing Dan online, and unless there's there might be a question. Couldn't find my fashionable glasses, so I have to put these on. He is one of the, okay, well, I'm going to look at some of these questions offline. I'm going to turn this over to Dan. And Dan, I'm really happy to see that you've got a guardian angel hanging over your shoulder. I'm just going to, just picture my face superimposed on that, and I can just be looking over you with love and support. So I'm glad to have you where you are, and I'm going to shut up now so people can hear from you, and you can fill us in on what's going on.
Awesome, thank you, Dan. Yeah, how fitting to have the angel over my shoulder, I guess. So I guess it would be this shoulder. Thank you for that update. That was awesome. A couple of things I'll talk about some more details and try to fill in some questions I know that we've been troubleshooting or talking about over the last couple of days as the care center really has ramped up. It has 3 individuals now who are at the care center that have tested positive. 2 of them are from the same residence. We've had 3 other individuals now, so the whole house, the other 3 getting tested today. We've tried to work with the Department of Public Health and the Board of Health to help us try to, once we have a confirmed case in one house, to try to expedite getting the whole house tested. And so we're going to continue to try to do that. We weren't able to do that as of now for the house where we have what is 2 positive cases and 3 more getting tested today. And now that next house that has 1 person, we're trying to work with that house to see if we can get everyone tested, because I think that, from what we've heard is that the quicker we can expedite getting the testing for the whole entire house will certainly help the whole house sort of just heal better, and that quarantine period of time go a little bit smoother. Thank you again to all those staff, Mark, Augustine, who I think Dan, I didn't catch if Dan mentioned his name, but certainly I didn't want to leave him out from the other people that he recognized as helping us, Faith and Beth and Mike and Ken. Mark was really the first person to sign up and to start this, and the first person to do his 12-hour shift in overnight once we did have someone confirmed. So I really appreciate that and his efforts and really everyone's efforts in making sure that is as comfortable a space as it can be for our individuals. It does seem to be going very, I guess I would say, smoothly at this point. We have ample equipment there as far as PPE equipment, and the feedback from staff, the suggestions and the ideas and things we're trying to enhance as we go has been very helpful. And so we'll continue to do that as we move along. A couple of family members, and I guess I mentioned it in these updates because I've had so many individual conversations with different family members or funding sources, and so I just want to mention that, we're really taking our lead from the Mass Department of Public Health. That is, they're providing guidance on a regular basis. This week they've provided two updates to their guidance on how we should treat staff who have tested positive, as well as staff who are coming out of quarantine. And that seems to be, people have different recommendations. And so I guess when those different recommendations come down, either it be from your PCP or maybe from your local Board of Health, we're certainly making sure that we're following the Mass Department of Public Health's COVID-19 recommendations, best practice for our staff, which we are considered healthcare workers and essential employees. A few other things as far as the care center. As Dan mentioned, they are staying at a hotel. The staff themselves are then isolated at a hotel afterwards. And so we've really enhanced some of the things we can do to provide safety for them, as well as, I think ultimately it provides safety for the individuals. And so if you did, agree to do a shift there or to do a period of time there, that thank you very much. We appreciate that. We are tracking that closely, and we're going to try to give you as much warning as when we're going to be scheduling you in, because as I've told everyone that I've talked with and I know that the team is telling everyone that we will need everyone, and so we we will be rolling people out try to match the needs of the individuals that are there at the time, so that we can provide the best care for the people there at all times. And so I think Dan touched on it, but I'll just mention it more. We're really looking at expanding our outreach of programs that we're starting to offer through via technology or telehealth, or however you want to label that. So we're going to roll out to a wider number some of the morning meeting activities, group activities that we're having, cooking classes, just social gathering, virtual social gatherings that we have been doing, that we will continue to enhance to try to expand our outreach to all of our individuals. Over the 3 different day programs, that touches on about 250 people. And so we really want to be able to reach some of those people who, are in the same boat as us, isolated at home. And, the people we're talking with on a daily basis, as far as the staff who are really helping us support making some of these decisions and putting things in action, we, know every day is the same now. We're all sort of bound by the 7-day schedule, right? So Monday through Friday necessarily doesn't matter, or it's the weekend really doesn't matter that much. And so we're looking for some of these activities to take place on the weekends and at odd hours, not just during that unique program time of 9 to 3, which we typically offer day services, because I think there's as much engagement as we can offer to our individuals and to the families to help them manage these days is really what I think is we're called upon. So so we'll do some morning meetings. We'll do a lot of this through Zoom. We'll offer a different platform if we find that's not been that's not continuing to be effective. But as of now, it's being effective, and it allows you to have different presenters at different times and present and interact. And so, but we may switch platforms based on technology and needs. And so if you attend one of our day programs and you're watching this webinar, that certainly reach out to us, or we'll reach out to you, try to engage as much as possible. You might have to ask your group home staff or staff with you to help you set it up at first. I know a lot of you are smart enough and can navigate the technology probably 10 times better than I can. And so I think for you guys, it's been easy, but for some of the other individuals that might need staff assistance from the group homes and stuff. So we're going to try to make it as simple and as seamless as possible. As far as the other locations, our residential programs, we do have a number of staff that have tested positive. Currently, we only have 2 staff who have reported tested positive. And we do take it upon, DDS has asked us to notify them if those staff have worked at another residential program or another day program during the time that they've shown symptoms or tested positive. And so we are communicating that. So if HR does ask you if you've worked at another agency, or if a manager or director asks you, did you work at another agency, that's mainly why we're asking. We're not trying to get into people's business too much. I know that was a conversation with one staff. And so we just want to make sure that we do our part in decreasing the spread of this virus as much as we possibly can. So that's about it for me. Dan, I don't know if I'll bring you back in, maybe. Greg, you can bring Dan back in. I don't know if there's anything I didn't mention, or if there's any particular questions that people have. I think, again, it continues to be an evolving situation, and we're continuing to get updates almost hourly. I think in the last 2 days, we certainly have all sat on yesterday would seem to be 12 straight hours of different conversations and webinars and in meetings, and we've been in touch with the Board of Health in Woburn, as well as the town where people have tested positive. We have talked with the mayor of Woburn, Scott Galvin, who's been very, very helpful and offered the assistance of all the resources in Woburn that we need. And we've alerted the fire department and Chief Adgate so that they're on the ready if we need them to help out for anything at the building. And so we're definitely notifying the people that we have to notify. And I think everyone is just trying to make the right decisions at the right time, and trying to provide the most updated, accurate information. And that's the toughest part all the time, is because we all get our information a lot of times from different resources. And so yeah, we're really going with the DPH guidelines and talking to our healthcare professionals in the field. I want to thank, Elder and Sharon Pitts and Doreen and Michelle and James and Brian and just really all the team and their teams that have helped support this, because I think now this next phase, as Dan said, tier one was really making sure we had we were able to execute what was our plan, 2 plans, and we did a good job with those 2 plans. And now this is sort of part of that tiered system, which is level 2, which is really enhancing some of the services that we can provide both in our residences full-time, while individuals are staying put in the houses, as well as the activities we can provide for reaching out to people, and then the care and at the care center at New Boston Street. So that's it for me. I don't know, Dan. You had a couple questions. Yeah.
One came from the father of someone who's put, it was, and just for context, it was, how did you find out the guys were positive? I don't know if they was looking for some explanation on what that process was like.
Yeah, so that's a good question, because I know I talked with a family member yesterday. Again, once someone is showing symptoms, we contact the primary care. The primary care recommends whether that person should be tested or if we should monitor those symptoms. You have to remember, we're taking the temperatures of everybody every day. So we're taking temperatures of every staff who's coming into work, as well as the individuals. We're taking their temperatures twice a day in the 2 shifts. And so once they have shown the symptoms that the guidelines tell us to keep track of and keep an eye out for, we're contacting the PCP. Many of them have recommended, when that has happened, to go ahead and get a COVID test. And we've worked then with the local Department of Public Health and the Board of Health to try to facilitate the closest venue for that person to get tested at. I think I shared with you guys last week, but I've shared with many people that, everyone, again, this is such a fluid situation, and everyone's responding to the information that they have right in front of them. So we were approved to have one individual tested, one of our guys tested, and it was 4 o'clock, let's just say, on this particular day, and we were supposed to go have them tested at the site that was open till 5, and we were at the site by 4:30 waiting to be tested, and that site was actually still being developed and built. They hadn't even been ready to start testing yet, and it was the next day that site started rolling out testing. And we got that information from the Department of Public Health, who it showed them as a ready testing site. And so again, we're all just trying to do the best. That we were able to get that individual tested as soon as possible that next morning, and move from there. And so what we're really, there's a lot of distinctions. I'll probably misspeak when I said them, as Dan talked about, when you're live on these webcams, but we are, if someone tests positive, they are moving to the care center, and we are caring for them there. If someone's assumed positive, that doesn't mean necessarily that they are positive, and we will continue to work with their healthcare professional in the Board of Health and the Department of Public Health to decide what the next step is. And the next step for some people is to go get tested. Some primary care physicians have said, well, you can presume them positive. And once they're presumed positive, it means that they should have the same treatment as someone who has been tested positive. And so there's a clear distinction right there. And I know there's been a lot of confusion about that from staff who have come in, who their personal physicians have told them to quarantine, and they can assume they're positive. Assumed is, particularly in this case, is much different than presumed. And so there's different sort of paperwork that gets required with treating someone as presumed positive, because then the PCP is responsible for reporting that to the Board of Health and that. So it's a clear distinction. It seems like it's easy to gloss over, but it's a very important distinction.
All right, Greg, any other questions before we start to wrap up?
Yeah, just a couple quick ones, and I know this one's really not answerable now, but how long are we expecting 147 New Boston to be quarantined?
As long as it takes? Is that an answer? That sounds like a politician's answer, doesn't it? We don't know. We don't know. So we will keep you posted. You know, we are committing to continue these virtual forums, and we may be inviting different people to join us from time to time. It is critical, in my opinion, that we find ways to keep people connected and to keep these connections alive and healthy during the whole time that this is going on, so that when we do have important information like reopening New Boston Street, that you'll be the first to hear it, and that we can count on these virtual sorts of avenues that we're creating together as ways that we can make sure that we're getting the information. So in to that end, we have another forum scheduled, a family and staff forum on Thursday. We'll get you the time on that specifically. And then on Friday, we're going to have our second at end of the week kind of unity forum, where it's maybe we'll hear from staff in some different parts of the organization, and we'll do kind of a more feel good kind of approach. The last thing I just was going to quickly mention, and Dan, are there any other questions for Dan? We'll let Dan, maybe we'll say goodbye to you. Dan, thank you so much for the update and for keeping us informed, and for the outstanding work that you and your teams are doing to help see us through this crisis. We really appreciate your leadership on this, and you know, you said you had aged, I don't know how many years through this whole thing. I know the feeling. So
you can put that out on the poll. Have people vote on the poll.
No, I've learned not to ask certain questions because that's just something you don't want to know. You know, if people have opinions, as far as I'm concerned, you can keep it to yourself. And as long as we're showing up and we're making ourselves available in this public way, then you get what you get. But we appreciate you, just your loyalty and your dedication and everything you've done for this organization, not just now, but through the many long years that you've been around. So thank you, and stay safe.
Thank you. You too. Thank you, everyone.
So the last thing I was just going to mention for staff that may have some questions, and then we'll go ahead and sign off. There is some conversation that I've become aware of in Region 3, probably other places throughout the state, that as organizations are beginning to interpret this coronavirus, this CARES Act that I mentioned earlier, and that some of the financial mitigation money is becoming available. Different organizations are maybe doing different things or choosing to operationalize in different ways. We're learning by seeing what others are doing. But there's been, I think, some growing conversation that some workers, some people that are working with our clients across different organizations may be receiving some sort of an hourly stipend to do direct face-to-face contact with folks that are in our programs. It's true that this is added level of burden and responsibility during this time when so many people have just chosen to wisely follow the guidance of distancing themselves. Although we've talked about this also before, that we are considered to be essential staff, and we are essential. We couldn't do it without the willingness of our staff to continue to show up. And as we prepare for this to maybe get a little worse before it gets better, we're going to need to continue to rely on staff. So I want you to know that that's something that we're looking at. I can't make any promises right now, but you will be the first to know once we've made a decision about whether or not, given the different financial aid that's being made available to organizations, that, believe me, if there's a way we can do that and provide some sort of an hourly stipend to help support the staff that are coming in face-to-face contact every day and providing care, I promise you, I will make that available, and that's something that will be done in short order. And if possible, we'll look at making that retroactive for the staff that have been showing up every day and helping us in this very critical way at this very important time. So just stay tuned or come back on Thursday, and we may have some answers by then. Greg, any last questions or thoughts before we sign off and get back to work?
Yeah, no, I guess Dan has one more thing that he wanted to come back for. So let me just bring him back in.
All right, well then I will sign off and tell you all, keep the faith. We got this. There's been a little some anxious moments. I remain unafraid because I know that we're going to get through this. So Dan, you take it out. You can wrap it up, and I sign off. Just being your grateful president and CEO, and as proud as can be. Thanks, guys.
I guess I was just going to wrap up with, there was another question that I was going to help expand on and try to answer. And the question was, how many individuals have been tested at NuPath? And so we have 4 individuals that have been tested, 3 that came back positive. 3 individuals have been tested and 3 came back positive. We did have our first staff person come back negative. And as far as numbers, as far as staffing having been tested, we know we have 2 confirmed staff that have tested positive. And how many have been tested overall, that we don't have an exact number on that. Where I know HR is working very hard to see if we can get that number, but so many times we're just that language that I spoke about earlier, which was presumed, assumed, and then people that have gone out to be tested. So many staff have reported that their primaries have said, well, you can assume you've been positive. That doesn't mean presumed. And so therefore they haven't gone out and got tested, but they are quarantining. So, and then the last thing so I hope that answers that question. If not, certainly feel free to text me or reach out to me, and I'll try to provide some more detail, or Sharon can even provide that detail as well. I also wanted to thank, I wanted to, I guess, say thank you again to Mary Lou and the other consultants. I know you have all reached out and offered many different things. I know, Mary Lou, I think you and your daughter have brought by desserts and care packages for the group homes and for the care center. And so that is greatly appreciated. And I just wanted to recognize you and say thank you, and to thank those other consultants for being willing to do some of the activities of the telehealth support that we're going to do and stuff. And so we will get back with you as soon as we can to come up with a plan to get you involved and to get you on the schedule, because I think, again, the enhancement of those services is going to be the best thing for our individuals. So that was the last thing I wanted to add or to say. Thank you again to everybody, to everyone I get to be on the phone with and say thank you to regularly, but also to all those staff and Mark and Faith and Beth and Mike and Ken and the people at the center, and then people at every residential home, because that is vital work you guys are doing. So thank you very much. I guess I'll kick it over to Greg, as they say.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.